Hello, everyone. My name is Chrysanthe Kapuranis. Welcome to my presentation. It's called The Moon Lights My Way. I'm an artist. I'm interested in astronomy, and I'm a fine arts student, and I've always loved the moon. And one evening, I was out walking at the University of Arizona Mall, and I saw the telescopes out, and I was invited to come over and view, and it was my first time. I was so amazed. And that was the beginning of my journey, where I enrolled in a class in planetary science, and through moon observing in the evenings with the class, I was capturing images. And then I was able to use those images to create a beautiful triptych of the moon. And it's more like an illustration of the moon painted with my oils. And you will see that in the following slides. So I'm going to share my screen and take you on my little journey. And here we are. And so in this presentation, I will share my creative process in order to gain knowledge about the planetary science with fine art, poetry, and storytelling. A sense of wonder sparked my passion in moon art, and by observing and capturing images through the lens of the telescope, just using my iPhone. And so this is a photo, though, that I took one evening. I didn't have the telescope, it was the blood moon, so I did use my Nikon camera to capture this one. Here I am. On the right, it's moon observing night, and that's the telescope and that I've been using to capture the images. On the left, I'm in art class, and I'm beginning to sketch out onto the canvas, and the painting in the full moon, putting in some of the colors, laying in the color of mixing the paint with the gray tones, and starting the project. And this is the final. So it was viewed more like an illustration of the moon because I tried to be very careful and put in all the details of the craters. And the center full moon is 30 inches by 30 inches, and the two sides are 15 by 30. And this is the moon book that I'm creating in letterpress class. It's called the Book Art and Letterpress Lab was the class. And I'm continuing the journey of the moon with a poem called Woman of the Moon. Letterpress is the oldest type of printing from a raised surface used in the 15th century by Johannes Gutenberg. In order to create the book, I had to make the films, as you could see towards the bottom right, and then I had to make the plate using photopolymer, and by exposing it from the drawings, I got a raised surface, and then was able to put it on the actual press, and along with the letters of the poem. I also used some watercolor on Yupo paper and layered the image of the moon over that, and you will see. So here's the completed book, and you see the watercolor and the illustrations that overlay, and it reminded me kind of like a nebula. On the left, you could see the actual lead type, and I had to put it together letter by letter, and it's backwards so that when it prints, then it's right side up. And I also wanted to note that a typeface, once you select your typeface, it kind of gives the voice for the piece, for the artwork that you are making, and it just complements what you are doing. And this is Tactile Moon. On the right is Professor Steve Kortenkamp. On the left, Professor Sun Ye Hong. They're displaying 3D models of the moon's surface that they're created in the University of Arizona. I think it's made from a type of resin. So this is a way for blind or visually impaired students to learn the actual surface of the moon. Anybody can feel it and learn from it. So there was a conversation, and we talked about making art accessible for everyone. But now, since I'm an art student, we thought, what if I explored how a blind or visually impaired student can experience 2D art by touching and learning about astronomy? So I used acrylic paint mixed with molding paste and a palette knife used to raise the surface and making it tactile for areas of learning. And this way, students could navigate around the shapes that I've made, and then they could discover areas that we want to emphasize, like the Mare or craters like Tycho, Copernicus, and Kepler. Let me see if the little video works. So you could see how I blended the paint and just did an example of how I lift the surface. There you go. So it took a little bit of time to create the painting, trying to make sure that it was raised enough so that somebody could gather that information through touch. And here is the final piece, and I'm dropping it off at the 2019 Art of Planetary Science exhibit. And I'm with Amanda Statterman, a PhD candidate and lunar and planetary geologist, and she's one of the co-organizers of the Art of Planetary Science. And so the moon is an 8 by 8 inch textured from acrylic. And this is about stories. Through the generations, humans have shared stories and passed down knowledge through art, poetry, music, observing the stars and moon, and seeking answers to questions about the universe. I feel that in order to help people better understand astronomy when they might fear taking a class, combining both disciplines can make a greater impact on learning. It did for me. It helped me so much to learn and not be afraid of astronomy. So this is an image that I captured through the telescope using my iPhone. It's pretty incredible. And this is based on the story, Selene, goddess of the moon. And again, the moon, crescent moon I captured, and I used that in the art. I photographed Natalie, she was the model, and then I took something that was personal to her and turned it, it's a rosette from a cathedral, I think in Germany when she visited, and I made that be like a star in the background. And a story passed down by ancient Greek poets about heavenly bride and lunar lover Selene, who visits each night to be with Endymion, a handsome shepherd prince. And it's pastel on paper. So yeah, I enjoyed exploring another medium to create, the moon again. I thought the moon turned out pretty good with the shadows using the pastel. And this one is my latest piece called Cosmic Rose. It's a story about the creation of the universe and reflecting on our interconnectedness with place and the beauty found within the balance of the whole universe. And this too was with pastel on paper. And here we are, moon observing night, with Professor Corton Kent's class and some graduate students. And then this is part of a moon project. And I have a quote from Galileo: "The nature of the human mind is such that unless it is stimulated by images of things acting upon it from without, all remembrance of them passes easily away." So I wanted to thank everyone for visiting virtually, and also thank you to the Art of Planetary Science exhibit organizers for inviting me to share my journey. And Natalie, she was the model. She's gonna play us a little music, and it's called Comptine, and it's from Rhyme of Another Summer. I hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for listening to my presentation.